take a breath, hang out with me, find yourself in Campbell's greenhouse.
Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to walk you through how I have rehabilitated some spring plants. This video was taken in February of this year. I discovered that this pot of bulbs and primroses was just sort of sitting off to the side and had already started sprouting, and I decided to try to plant it again and see if it would come back to life. So I was kind of cleaning up the roots here, and I thought maybe it would fit in this little container, and I found another primrose to fill the gap on the side of it. Here I'm going to try to put it in the container and realize that it's too high. I need a deeper container, so I'm going to try to solve that problem. Here in a minute I'm going to show you a picture of what it looked like last year. So I bought sort of just a set of, here's the pot I put it in last year, and my sister's dogs. There it is. I just bought this set from probably Home Depot or Fred Meyer, and there was daffodils in the center and I don't know, about 5 or 6 primrose plants around the perimeter. I think I thought I was gonna break it apart and put the primroses around the garden, and I just ended up plopping it into that pot because it was sort of easy color in the spring. And so that was about February of last year. After it finished blooming, I put it aside, just sort of next to some bushes. And then this January, February, when I started to clean up the garden, I discovered the primroses were blooming over there. And so I thought I would bring them out and try to add them to my spring garden for this year. So here I'm filling in some gaps. Maybe a couple of those primroses died, or maybe I even pulled them out and put them somewhere else. So I found sort of a wider, bigger pot. I'm going to fill in the gaps with some potting mix, and I'm grooming the primroses, pulling off dead leaves and flowers, and trying to not disturb the bulbs from the tete-a-tete daffodils in the center. Tucking in some soil now. And I don't think I said this before, this is out at our beach house on the Washington coast, Zone 8B. I call it the Maritime Northwest because we're very close to the water. We get a lot of salt, lots of little microclimates behind trees and fences and things, but also pretty exposed to the elements. Oh, I'm tucking some bulbs in the side. Might as well. These bulbs should have been planted in the fall, but I did not plant them in the fall, so might as well stick them in winter and see if they will come up in the spring. So I'll just tuck some bulbs in, fill in the rest with dirt, and see how this pot does. After I pot things up, I like to tap the pot on the ground to make sure there's no air pockets, but I wouldn't recommend it. With terracotta, you can see here that I split the pot on the left side of the screen. So try not to slam your terracotta pots into the ground. You might crack them. Here is a couple months later after I potted it up. The daffodils have bloomed. The primroses look like they filled out a little bit. And then here is this past weekend, middle of March. Well, actually, it's end of March now, isn't it? March 23rd. The pot needed just a little bit of grooming and rehabilitation, so I'm going to trim off the daffodil stalks. So the parts that have had the blooms on the end, I'm trimming off, and I'm leaving the leaves so that they can bring energy into the bulbs so they can bloom again next year. You can kind of see the dead flower at the end of that stalk there. And then I'm going to just pull all the brown dead bits off of these primroses so that they look better. Dead flowers and dead leaves, and just sort of clean up underneath them. You can see that I just left the flowers in the broken pot. It really wasn't a big deal. You can kind of see the crack at the top a little bit, but no one is going to notice that, and it was already potted up, so might as well leave it there. But this will probably be the last season for that pot. Thanks for joining me today. I'm not sure if this video is a little slow, but sometimes I like to just sort of leave things at their pace. You can see how long it takes to groom up a pot without it being super sped up. Maybe it's just kind of calm and relaxing to clean up this pot. But I'll show you at the end of the video here what the pot looked like the next day. And it's kind of nice to think about reusing plants like this. They really weren't in the way. I just sort of tucked them in a plastic pot, not carefully or anything. I didn't cover them or anything. As soon as they're done blooming in the spring and I needed this sort of front space of my garden for something else, I just tucked them to the side somewhere that nobody would see them, and then they just kind of came back to life when it was their time to bloom, January of the next year, and then I brought them out in the front again. So it probably cost somewhere between $15 and $25 for this collection of plants, and I've already gotten 2 years out of them, and I plan to tuck them aside and use them again next year. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you in my garden or greenhouse again soon.
Take a breath, hang out with me, find yourself in Candle's greenhouse. Take a breath, 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 hang out with me, find yourself in Candle's greenhouse.